Today I will be going over the page 2 of the study guide, and this is the last page. It's only the front, making sure we know what's going to be on the 9 weeks test. Starting out, this number 25, I personally saw it as a division problem, and this division, if you're going to go about 72.5 miles, and you're trying to break it into 18 and 1/8 mile chunks. You're trying to figure out how many days it's going to take. So, I'm going to show you what I got. If I divide 72.5 by 18 and 1/8, I personally did the paper pencil first, got 4 days, and then what I've been doing is checking it with my calculator. I realized that the 9 weeks test will be A, B, C, or D. But if you're going to, you need to do paper pencil first and then check it with a calculator. Let me put it that way. Okay. Any questions on 25? Everybody good on that one?
I have a question, but it's not on 25. It's on 26.
Okay. 26. Let me kind of explain it, and then I'll explain my answer choices. Personally, I think there are what I'm going to call 3 different answers. 3 answers, meaning that it is division. And yes, if you do this division, that 2.5 boxes is the exact answer you get. But when you read the question says, how many boxes will you fill? F-I-L-L. Now, the amount of boxes that you're going to fill or fill up would be 2 boxes. Then I had some kids say, but I'd have half a box left over. So that half a box, you would have to have 3 boxes in order for it to all fit in the same, in order for them to all fit into boxes. So, I personally feel that this does not have enough information to get the exact answer. I would say this is the most correct because it fills 2 boxes, but I can see why these 2 answers would also be given. So if you're justifying or you're giving me sentences, I can see why you would do what you would do. Now, so we were talking about the answer choices. If it was an A, B, C, or D answer test, like multiple choice, we would only have one of those answer choices as a possibility. Just double check your math, always, even if you're using a calculator. Okay, going on to 27. 27's question was, if Kevin can do 7 out of 10, and we're talking about free throws, so he makes 7 out of 10, Jolene makes 9 out of 12. There's a couple different ways you can go about this. Some of the kids change them to percentages, which if you divide 7 by 10, you get 0.7, which is 70%. 9 divided by 12 is 0.75, which is 75%. Saying that, Jolene is better at making free throws. I have seen one kid that simplified this to 3/4. And they also knew that 3/4 was 75%, which would be more than 70%. I actually had one student who found common denominators. So, if you took 12 and 10, and you turned them into common denominators. So, 12 into 60 would be 5. 5 times 9 would be 45. So, Jolene can do 45 out of 60. Kevin, if I made him out of 60, that would be 6. 10 into 60 would be 6. 6 times 7 is 42. So his rate is 42 out of 60. So Jolene is still correct. Either way, like with all the different ways of teaching this, as long as you can justify your answer, you're good to go. Okay? Yes.
Never mind.
Okay. If you think about it, let me know. Okay. 28. I need you to know when looking for equivalent ratios or equivalent rates these were ratios, that you can multiply the top and the bottom by any number as long as you're using the same number on the top and the bottom. So guys, you could have done it times 5 and gotten 15 20ths. You could have done it times 6 and gotten 18 24ths. As long as you're doing the top and the bottom by the same number, you should be getting an equivalent ratio. Okay? Yes, question.
I'm going back to the
Uh-huh.
To get like to 70% and 75%,
Mhm.
can you just add a 0 to the numbers?
You wouldn't want to add a 0 to the 75.
I'm talking about the 7/10. To get the
7/10, yes, 70%, because that'd be 70 over 100.
Because then you could just divide the 9/12s. So then you're done with that one. You can just add a 0 to the 7/10.
A lot of this is just playing with the numbers till you get something you understand. Like me personally, looking at 9/12ths and 7/10ths, I can't compare those and just know off the top of my head who did better. But if I change them to percentages, it makes sense that this person made 75% of their shots. They are better than the person who made 70% of their shots. So it makes sense. A lot of this is just playing with numbers until you understand it, to be honest. Okay, 29. This was the picture one. Now, I started out by finding 20% of 100, which I moved my decimal over twice and I got 20. So, I figured out that with the bar graph, or whatever, the bar table graph, you've got 10 boxes, so 2 would be 20 out of 100. So that's 20% of it's colored in. If it is 100 square, you need 20 little boxes, does not matter where, as long as it's 20, in there. On the 9 weeks test, I can tell you, there'll be 4 different little graphs glued on there, and then you have to figure out which graph is colored correctly. Just make sure you count the boxes, or you make sure the math is right. Of means multiply. Of means multiply. Yes.
Okay, so basically what you're saying about the test is like what you have to choose between the numbers.
Like,
there'll be a number and then you have to choose which graph matches it.
right. There'll be 4 of these, like 4 different ones like this, glued on there with different amounts shaded in. And then you pick which one is shaded correctly. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Will there be one like on the test like this, but like one part like on one like let's just say that like A is like that, but then B is like on the other side?
Nah. There would be 2 full boxes shaded in. They may not be right next to each other, but 2 ends even, something like that. Okay, on number 30, this is the one that I really wanted to explain. These are one of the box questions. Most of you know it as a box question. For kids who might be at home relearning this, or parents learning it for the first time, basically you are breaking this into a ratio, but the key is that it's not an even ratio. It is a 4-to-6 ratio. So what I've been telling the kids is, kind of imagine having 4 tables on this side of the room and 6 on this side of the room. And you wanted to distribute 200 of whatever evenly. So I asked the students to draw boxes to represent their numbers. Now, from there, you're going to take your big number, divide it by however many boxes you have. So we had a total of 10 boxes, giving me 20 as my number. 20 is what goes in each box. 20 goes in each cute little box. Then the last step is to add up all the boxes, giving you your new ratio. So what that means is on these 4 tables, you would need to put 80 of whatever it is, markers or whatever. And on this side of the room, you would have your 6 tables with a total of needing to take 120 with you. It's split, but it's just not split evenly. And that's the hard part about this. Okay, and I call it the box questions for the sake of that's the best way I found to teach it. So, question? Okay, either or. On the next one, we're talking number 31. we've got percents to decimals. We talked about moving the decimal over twice because you're dividing by 100. Decimals to percents. You can bounce it twice to the right because you're multiplying times 100. I realize a lot of you are going to use the calculator. Just be careful. Okay. Now, this last part right here. I put this on here as extra just because I wanted to make sure you remember to change fractions to decimals and percents, how to do it. Meaning divide, get the decimal, and then bounce it over twice to the percent. We definitely covered this. I just don't remember seeing it exactly on the 9-week study guide. So, okay, question 32 is another box question, as I call it. They basically have 108 flowers, I think it is. If the ratio of purple to black flowers is 4 to 8, and there's a total of 108 flowers, how many are purple and how many are black? What I do is I keep everything lined up. The purple was a 4 ratio, the black was an 8. I drew out my boxes, 4 boxes and 8 boxes. That gives me a total of 12 boxes. So I took my big number, divided by 12, and got a 9. Stuck 9 in each cute little box, making my final ratio 36 purple to 72 black.
And
Now,
then you put 36B and then 72B.
yes, and be very careful because we're probably going to only ask you about one of them. So maybe we ask you how many purple are there. Well, if you tell me 72, 72 stands for the black. So you've got to be very careful that you know which part of it stands for whatever and that you pick the right one. Okay? And I realize some of you don't need these cute boxes. That part's totally up to you. Totally.
What if you simplify?
Okay, if you can't simplify these because they're wanting to know if you had 108, what ratio is equal to it? If you simplified it, you're going to go all the way back to 4/8, which is 1/2.
Yeah.
So the key is, think about it this way. They have a big amount, and they want you to spread it out in a room, and it's not even. If it was even, like half and half, it'd be easy. We'd just split it down the middle. But this has 2 different amounts they want. So they need double on this side of the room that they need on that side of the room. Kind of weird. And it's something that I just can't imagine in my head. I have to do this math to get the perfect answer. I can guess, but it seems like my guesses are nowhere near.
I don't know either.
It's weird. So, is anybody at 32? Anybody? Question?
Wait.
Go ahead.
I do it differently.
Uh-huh.
When I had 4 and 8 and divided it, and instead of running the boxes, I just multiplied 9 and 4.
Yes. Like, wait a minute. You multiplied 12 times 4 and 12 times 8?
Yes.
Yes. That's fine. Listen, if you don't need the boxes, that's fine. The boxes are just a visual way to kind of show you what's going on. Most of you now realize you're going to take the 9 and do, 9 times 4, and then the 9 and do 9 times 8, and that gives you those final numbers. Okay? And that's fine. That is totally fine. It's just different ways. I don't know. Things get easier the more we do it.
No, I do 4 divided the number in the box. Times.
4 times, right.
4 times 9.
And then 8 times 9, right. So just that. You got it. 33. We're doing rate to unit rate. We talked about when we are given a rate and we're trying to find a unit rate, we use division. Unit rate means how much is 1 or per 1. So, using division, 3,000 divided by 20, I got 150 words in 1 minute. Okay. Going on to these last few. Now, I have been talking to you about showing your work, meaning I show all my steps, then I check it with a calculator. You should get the same answer, even if you're doing this with a calculator. On the 9 weeks test, if parents are wondering, yes, you'll get to use a calculator. The problem is I'm not allowed to explain to you how to use it. So if there's any questions, I can try to explain it now.
Okay, so you have to write it out, or you can...
No, you really do not have to, because this test is A, B, C, or D.
I
That
got 61.5.
On which one?
35.
35. Do you have it written out, though?
No.
Okay, then go back. I would get a calculator and practice. Try 9 times 4 ABC1 ABC6 equals
9.
Remember 6, I got 3 and 1 4.
ABC.
Oh, that's
1,
what.
ABC 6.
ABC.
Yes.
I got all of it.
You done made me forget.
Do what?
You made me forget. 'Cause yes.
Okay.
Wait,
I got the same answer. Oh yeah, I remember 36. I got the same answer I got the first time.
That's right. 3 and 1 8. 36 is down here. 3 and 1 8.
Oh, so we have to bring our own calculator, right?